Good evening, everyone. It is LiveCaveDave here. It's LiveCaveDave Live or LiveCaveDave, whatever we're going to call it. I can never remember exactly what we do. However, we're here. Hi, how are you? We've got some iCave Answers questions to go through, so that's going to be the first thing that we do. We're going to do that now, so that as and when people arrive on the stream, that's all good, and people can say hi, and we'll all be happy. So the first question that we've got sitting in my iCaveDave is from Marcin Kowalczyk, and it is, iCave Answers, do you think there might be a bigger push towards M4 at WWDC with the rest of the Mac lineup, or are we slated to wait for some more M3s so it won't get obsolete too quick? So this is a really interesting one because it is a bit of a strange situation that we've got M4 as quickly as we have. That's not what normally happens, but from as far as I understand it, it does seem like M3 has just been moved on from because M3 is just really hard for TSMC to make reliably. We've already heard that TSMC are absorbing the cost of failed chips. That's because the yields are so bad that Apple has basically said, look, nothing to do with us. It's not our fault that your process isn't so good. Let me just fix this lighting in here a little bit better. There we go. That's a bit nicer. So yeah, not our fault that your process isn't working so well. So I think that's why we've moved on to M4 so quickly. It's nothing to do with the fact that we've M3 needs time. It's not that sort of stuff. We've got 6 people now watching. Do say hi in the chat. I'm just going through some of the questions that have been left in the comments. But if you've got a question you'd like me to answer in the show, do drop it into the live chat and we will make sure that we answer those as well for you. But yeah, I think it does look like A17 Pro is also not going to be something that goes into basically anything else. That's why we're hearing that we're going to get an A18 and an A18 Pro this year for the iPhones as opposed to an A17 because that was on the old process. That's my thoughts at the moment, so that's the way that I think it's going to be. So the next question that we've got up here is just making sure that everyone knows that the question is answered in this live stream. The next question that we've got in the docket is iCave Answers from Evan Rogers. What sort of AI features do you want to be announced at WWDC? I really don't know. I have a strange feeling that it's not going to be chatbots. I don't think it's going to be the way that we've seen with other companies doing their AI stuff. I don't think that's the way that this is going to go. Anton Reese, hello, how are you? Oh, literally just got my iPad Pro M4 13-inch an hour ago. Love it. Cool. Very nice to know. Yeah, I don't think in terms of AI stuff that it's going to be a big sort of chatbot. I think, yeah, Siri's probably going to get a bit smarter. That's going to be a lot of the on-device stuff where very natural language and kind of persistent topics can kind of work. Stream. But yeah, I think that's really... The difficult thing is Apple doesn't do AI in the way that everyone else does AI. We've been using machine learning for years. It's been mainly in photography. It's been in Siri knowing which apps to show you at different times of the day. It learns that, suggesting routes for you when you jump into the car, because even on CarPlay, it's like, this time of the day on a Tuesday, you tend to go to this place, so should we give you the destination for there? So it'll be that kind of stuff, but on steroids, I think. I think that's really the way it's going to go. Yeah, a little bit different. Sigmund Judge in the chat as well. Hello, my friend. We've just been chatting on iMessage as well. Sigmund has traded in his iPad mini, the best iPad, because he wants to have a prettier screen, it seems. So we'll see where he ends up. But Sigmund, let me know if you've made a decision in the chat. This is important stuff that we need to cover this evening. Anton Reese saying, I hope they don't make Siri too flirty. Yes, I saw that stuff from, I think it was OpenAI, right? Where the ChatGPT, is that OpenAI? I get so confused with all of these different names for things. I haven't watched the Google one yet. Was that any good? Did anyone watch that? But yeah, a few more questions from the from the previous. So this is from Team Kinetics, Brad, who we had on the podcast a couple of weeks back. iCave answers, do you think there will be a significant overhaul of iPadOS at WWDC, or is it the same hype we saw when the iPad Pro first got M1? Will iPadOS continue to hamstring the technical marvel that is the iPad, or should we stop expecting so much from a £2,000 tablet? Now, this is I don't know if you're being snarky today, Brad, but I think, number one, right, let's just address the first thing, which is the chips inside. Everyone keeps saying, why are they putting these great chips into an iPad if they're not going to let you use that power? These are iPad chips. It's just that we can now run a Mac on them as well. It's not the other way around. The M1 is the A14X, the M2 is the A15X, the M3 is the A16X, and this is the A18X ahead of the A18 coming out for the M4, because we've skipped over that A17 generation, which is the one that's on the weird process. So, I don't think we actually have the same perspective on the chips. Yes, it's an expensive device, but that's because you're getting a blooming beautiful display. So the OLED displays in these iPads are basically the best displays in any consumer device, I would probably push to say. I think that's fair. Sigmund Judge, I have not. 13 is a little too big, but the 11 I'm watching on seems a little warmer in colour than the 13. The worry is now uniformity across displays and devices. Yeah, I've seen some stuff about that, with the 13 the 11 being warmer than the 13 looking a little bit cooler. I don't know if that's going to be on every 11 and every 13, or if that's going to be between different display manufacturers, or whether there's different settings that are engaged on those. But yes, it should be the same. This is very much one of the issues that we're hearing about, is that they're not particularly consistent. There's also been some murmurings about grain appearing in some of these OLED displays. Apparently, it can be just a symptom of the fact that we've got different sized subpixels for the different colors. That can be something that is apparently occasionally visible. So whether that's something that could be fixed, or if it is actually an error with certain panels, is unclear at this point. There's a little bit of teething issues with this new display technology, I feel. This tandem stacked OLED is not necessarily quite as easy as everyone expected, I think. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with it. I can't imagine that Apple's going to have huge issues, and if they do, then I would expect that they will actually recall them if that's what needs to happen. So, in terms of Team Kinetics' question, the chip thing, that is just, this is what the A14X, A15X, etc. would have become. So don't worry about that. That is just the right chip for an iPad. I don't think iPadOS is hamstringing it. I think it's, people are expecting the wrong things from it, is the issue. It's not designed to replace a Mac. It shouldn't be there to replace a Mac. It should be a very good tablet. It should have all of the cool stuff that you can do with the pencil, but don't expect it to have all of the window management that you would have with a desktop, because it isn't one. And if you start doing multiple displays, then you're going to have the issues of the apps that you're using are optimized for touch, because it's a touch-first device. And if you're using it with a keyboard and all of that kind of thing, very, very strange. It's not what the apps are designed for. So then being annoyed that it doesn't work as well as a desktop seems a little bit strange to me. But everyone is, absolutely entitled to want whatever they want. Doesn't mean that Apple has to give it to them. And if it's not what they want, then they're very, the option is always there to not buy something if it's not what you actually want. That's okay too. Another question from Team Kinetics. iCave answers, now you've been podcasting for a few months, can you share your experiences? Are there any views or plays at the level that you expected? What have you learned? Are you continuing to make long-form content? So, yes, in terms of the actual downloads on the podcast version, They're fairly low. That's okay though, because I do think, because this is a YouTube channel primarily, more people watch the YouTube channel than will download an audio-only podcast. But I like to have it there, because there are some people that prefer it that way. There are definitely people that would want to just be able to download it so they can listen to it in the car or on the commute on the podcast apps. And I think that's absolutely fine. It's difficult to kind of be annoyed that it's not getting more downloads, because we're working out what the format is. We're working out what people want to see from it. The bigger the names I get on the podcast, the more downloads it gets, as you would probably expect, because it does bring some audience in from those other creators' channels. Like we had Alex on today's show. Fantastic chat. If you haven't checked it out yet, go and check that out. He's got hands-on with the M4 iPad Pro 13-inch as well. He had that in the episode, so we were all having a chat about that. He's actually, I haven't seen it actually in person yet. I haven't got to the Apple Store. I've only seen stuff online, so I don't really have a full opinion on it yet. I do need to see it. I think the displays are probably going to look pretty fantastic, but as I say, I've not actually seen it in person yet, so very difficult for me to pass any judgment so far. If you've got any more questions in the chat, please do drop them in there. I think we may have exhausted what I had sitting in the channel. We've had a really busy couple of days on the channel, done a few shorts, which have also gone onto my Instagram and my TikTok and YouTube Shorts, obviously. But yeah, this is a little bit different for me, but both of those shorts have done quite well, sort of well into the thousands of views, which is nice. Talking a bit about Mark Rober stuff and the some of the accessibility features that were brought out on Thursday, which is like a disability kind of awareness day. I'm not sure exactly what it's supposed to be called, but my friend Andre Louis sort of brought it to my attention, and then I realised, that's when Apple dropped their announcement. And it's right at the top of apple.com as well right now. So all of those accessibility things, which is nice. It's good to bring attention to them. Definitely interesting to see what Apple's doing with these things. This is a very casual live today, by the way. This was not scheduled in particular. I mentioned that I might do it on Thursday, I think. So, we're not expecting huge numbers here. But whoever is here, we've got 8 of you guys watching right now, so please do say hi. You're welcome to join in the chat. That's how we roll. Michael Pepper's here. So, do you think Apple will bring both the 3X and 5X telephoto to the Pro Max / Ultra this year? I'd love to have both. Interesting. Like if they were to swap the 2X camera, or no, hang on, we've got the regular wide angle, the ultra wide, which is the 0.5, and the 5 on the Max. They're not going to add another lens, no. So it will still be 3 lenses, and I don't think they're going to get rid of the ultra wide because that's very handy. So no, they won't have both. But they may. I think they're sticking with the 5X, and then the Pro that's not Max will get the 5X as well this year, is what we've been hearing with that folded lens, the Tetra Prism. So, yeah, I think that's where it's going to be. I don't imagine they would have both on the same device, though. Hello. Anton Reese is asking, I was just looking at the Cuxo wireless charging stand for the iPad. Do you think there may be more wireless charging accessories for iPad? So it's wireless in that there are no plugins, but it uses the smart connector from what I've seen. They make good stuff. I've got one of their magnetic charging stands, which I use for the iPhone, watch, and AirPods. Yeah. And it's really good. So I would say it's probably going to be really good quality. The bit that I've had for nearly a year, and it's really held up well. All the hinges are really tight still, all of that kind of stuff. So I would not have any issues recommending that. I love the fact here that Sigmund is saying he would be very happy to have the film grain on his iPad Pro because he loves all that retro stuff. Right, Sigmund, question. Have you tried RetroArch on Apple TV yet? It really feels like arcade, and the AAA games may need to come to Apple Silicon, Apple TV sooner rather than later to compete with free ROMs. I haven't tried it yet, actually. I do remember it popping up. In fact, I think, Sigmund, I saw your tweet on it because everyone on Twitter has seen it now. And I'm still calling it Twitter. It's not called X, even though they've changed the domain today. So everything now says X on it, and they've changed the little, what they're called. It's not emoticon. Right up at the top where they put the little pinned things. They've got a specific name, but I can't remember what. Favicon, I think it's called. They've changed that to an X as well, but it seems like it's just a typed X. It's not been done very well, but yeah. Michael Pepper saying, I love the 3X for my use since the 5X can be a little too far out, but I guess the 48 megapixel main is bigger this year. Digital 3X and 4X could be better. I need a bigger main sensor since the low light defaults. Yeah. Low light defaults to the main sensor. Yeah, that makes sense. I think always give us bigger sensors. Always happy with that. I do think as well that's part of the reason that the iPad Pro lost its secondary camera, is because they've made it so thin. There just isn't the physical depth that it needed to put that in, perhaps. That's my thought on that one anyway. I mean, we know what's going on with the pencils. I'm very much hoping, as I've said in one of the videos this week, that Apple is looking to kind of condense the pencil line down to Pro, Apple Pencil Pro and Apple Pencil USB-C being the two, like the budget and the high-end option, but all of them becoming compatible with all of the current iPads. So I think the base iPad will probably get Apple Pencil Pro support in the next update, because all that is moving a wireless charging coil, putting that in the right place, and probably the same with the iPad mini as well when that finally gets an update, which I really hope is going to be like September time. That would be really good. I would like to buy one of those. Apple, I'll give you my money, just update it. Thanks. It's 2.5 years old now. I can't recommend buying it to anyone at this point with 2.5 years old chip inside of it, which was already a year old, I think, at the time. So yeah, I'm not doing that. Let's have a quick check over on Mac Rumors and see if anything cool has popped up. Yeah, RetroArch we were just talking about quickly. I do need to use that. I do need to have a play around with it. I might actually install that when I'm finished on this live stream today. Assuming that it's a direct install from the App Store. Sigmund, I'm sure you can shed some light on that. Is there anything else I need to know about RetroArch? We've got the grainy display thing going on. iPhone 16 Pro Max could feature larger batteries for longer battery life because it's got the metal around it. It looks like that's the stacked cells, potentially, that we've been hearing about before. Threads has now got a multi-column TweetDeck-like web view. Okay, this might be something that actually makes me start using Threads more than Twitter, because Twitter, number one, as I said earlier, it's not X. It's just called Twitter. But they made TweetDeck go away and called it X Pro, and you have to pay for it now. So no, not doing that. But I might do Threads again now that that's a thing. I like this. I like this a lot. What else have we got in the chat here? Anton Reese, I'm building an iPad stand that's going to look like the iMac G4. Oh, I'm into that. Really want it to charge through the smart connector. Okay, not 100% sure how we're going to do that. But yeah, love it. Love the concept. I've got a G4 17-inch up there. It's going to be, if it's a 13-inch, the smallest they ever did was a 15, wasn't it? But I mean, I get that you can do like the vibe of it. But obviously not probably using the old hardware unless you can find one that's broken. But that's cool. I like the idea. I like it a lot. I would still like to convert the 17-inch to just being a monitor with a Mac Mini inside, like Project 91 over here. That would be quite fun. Anything else happened today that I've missed? Sigmund's saying that RetroArch is #1 on the tvOS App Store right now, and in the top 10 everywhere else, which makes all the sense in the world. Looking forward to having a play with that. So that's cool. As long as it's on the main App Store, I haven't got to like start side-loading stuff, because that's just awkward. And Coopervise says, don't mean to change the subject, but if the M2 iPad Air supports the older Magic Keyboard, how can it not support the Smart Keyboard Folio? I don't know, but wasn't that a different connection anyway? I could be wrong. Maybe it does. Maybe it does support it. Haim is saying, I've been testing Whiskey on Apple Silicon Macs for Windows games. It works nicely, really snappy on M2 Pro or M3 at 16 gigabytes to test it. I've tried to get it running, actually, but it was one of... I mean, it might be that they've updated it since, but it was the first day that everyone started talking about Whiskey, and I tried it, and I could not get anything to run on it, and it was, like, making my system unstable. So I gave up on it for a little while, but I will revisit that. I don't know if it's still... yeah, it is still installed on here, the little orange icon. But yeah, it was causing me all sorts of problems, so that's why I'm not on it at the minute. And I was trying to do stuff through Steam, so that might be also an issue. And it was 32-bit games. Not sure if they're going to work. So there's a few variables that could be why I was struggling. But yeah, if you can help me, that'd be great. Just drop me a quick message on Twitter, not X, Twitter. And yeah, that'd be really cool if you can give me a couple of pointers. I will just try reinstalling it, because it might just be that they've updated it. Michael Peppertech says the magnet placement for the older Folio and keyboard cases are different from the newer ones. The older Magic Keyboard will kind of work, but wouldn't trust it to hold well. Steam only. Okay, so it should work with Steam stuff. Cool. Yeah, not really sure why I was having trouble, but yeah, I'll give it an update and see if we've got some better results this time. I'm probably only going to make this like a half hour tonight, guys. Just we'll probably wrap up about past, just because A, it's kind of late. B, I ate loads of food earlier and I'm like a little sleepy. I'm not going to lie, we had some TGI Friday stuff from Iceland, like the in-home stuff, the takeout stuff, and it was pretty good. Only works with one screen. That may be where I was going wrong, if that's the whiskey thing, because I'm always on at least 2 displays, so that might be it. Cool. We'll work this out. Because I would definitely like to be able to play some of the old Windows games. It's stuff like Warhammer 40,000 Dawn of War, that kind of stuff, like the originals. I love me some real-time strategy. I've always been like a Command & Conquer player. Command & Conquer from like 1993, I think it was, when it first came out. That was one of my favourite games ever. And I've played OpenRA, like basically the open source version of it. That's what I enjoy. And those are great because you can play them on the Mac. You've got like June 2000 and all that kind of stuff built into it. Really love that kind of thing. I would love to be able to play Generals and stuff like that again. But again, 32-bit at the minute. No, I've got the entire CNC collection on Steam. So, ooh, we may be onto a winner there. That's good. Cool. Hopefully that's the issues that we've got. I was testing Hades 2. I've not actually played that. What is that game like? I keep hearing about it. Talk to me about Hades. Hades 2 on Steam. Battle beyond the underworld using dark sorcery to take on the Titan of Time in this bewitching sequel to the award-winning rogue-like dungeon crawler. Okay, cool. So I'm guessing it's sort of along the lines of like a... I've forgotten every name of every game in the world. Yeah. Michael Peppertech, Bridger's keyboard is nice since it will work with multiple generations of the iPad Pros. Basically, just have to swap the outer case part and not the whole thing. Yeah, because they're just Bluetooth, right? And then it's just which ones snap onto it. But then Bridger's gone out of business, which is sad. because they were nice quality cases. We've got some new people joining, by the way. Do say hi. We're now up to like 13 people here, which is lovely. But if you're going to be here, you have to chat. That's the rules, okay? So jump into the live chat. Say hi. Say where you're watching from, if nothing else. But yeah, I might have to have a look at that Hades. Sounds pretty good. Hades 2. The other one that I've heard a lot about is this Helldiver. Is it Helldiver 2? Helldivers 2, yeah. I was hearing some good chat about this. I think it was on the Mac and Forth podcast, perhaps. I have to put in my date of birth to read about it because it's too naughty. Let's have a quick look. So, the galaxy's last line of offense, enlisting the Helldivers and join the fight for freedom across a hostile galaxy in a fast, frantic, and ferocious third-person shooter. Oh, so it's third-person now, so you're like just behind people, right? First person is when you're inside them. Third person is when you're behind them. Second person is when you're the enemy, I guess. Interesting. Here we go. We've got some more chatter. Slower Cuba, so of Birmingham, Alabama. Oh yes, you're from the other Birmingham, aren't you? The spare one that we keep in case there's a problem here. Welcome though, Slow Cuba. Thanks for coming. Michael Peppertech, the new Combo Touch looks nice as well. That's Logitech from memory, I think. Yes, if I were to get one of the new iPad Pros, I'd go with the Logitech. Had one for my M1 iPad Pro 11 before I sold it. Cool. I like your T-shirt. Who is that? Steve Jobs. Yes. So this is a Mighty's T-shirt. So this is one of the ones that was created by Airfon, who is the host of the Cultcast for Cult of Mac. He used to make these all the time. Yeah, these, and then he had like a You Auto Correct Me one as well, which is really cool. I had a few of his T-shirts. This one's held up really well though, because I must have had this for like 5-10 years. Not doing bad. My ones look awful. Was he the most genius person who ever lived? I mean, no, probably not. I would say there's some scientists that probably were more of geniuses, but what he did have was a really good kind of intersection of actual sciencey stuff and like humanities and like liberal arts, and knowing how to create things that people actually wanted, and creating those emotional connections between technology and humans. I think that was really what he did better than most people. Hades 2 is in early access on Steam now. Cool. I will check it out. I'll have a look. Sigmund Judge, question. Final Cut camera and multicam. Seems as though the only person excited about this is Dave 2D, but I think he hoped it could work with non-iPhone cameras as well. Will you be switching to use it? I won't be, because I don't have iPad Pro. I don't have any iPads that are M-powered, so I can't use Final Cut on iPad at the minute, which is annoying. The only iPad that I have is an A14 Air. So it was the generation before the M1. And my kids both have 9th gens. Yeah. So I don't have a Final Cut one at the minute. I would probably give it a good try, but I also don't think it would work for what I need. I mean, it could do. If I've got a couple of iPhones, I could kind of record into that and then edit. I am just used to doing it on the Mac, though. I don't necessarily think that my iPad needs to be everything to all people. I'm quite happy with it being an iPad, which is why I want the mini one. Anton Reese, I know people are saying this is a lot, but I really hope they majorly improve iPadOS soon. But what do you want it to do that's different? What is it you actually want them to change? Do let me know. And you're in Missouri. Cool. Very nice. Michael Pepper, so sick of people saying the iPad should become the Surface We've seen how poorly the Surface sales have been. Let the iPad be a tablet. Yeah, that's my thoughts on it a little bit. You wish they would improve Stage Manager. Like, I don't use Stage Manager because, again, don't have an iPad that does it. It seems like an entirely pointless thing to have on the Mac. The only reason I think they put it on the Mac is so that people that use it on an iPad, then if they graduate to using a Mac, if they decide to move over to that platform, then they've got the familiarity of it if that's what they want to do. I don't think it makes sense necessarily as a paradigm for the Mac, but I don't know. Sure. I'm also of the mindset, though, that there's not that much that you do on your computer where you actually need to have multiple things on the display at the same time. Like I have at the minute because I'm live streaming. So I've got OBS open here and then I've got YouTube Studio over here. But that's all. Like I don't have like 1,000 windows open. If I'm writing a script, I'll have a couple of windows open and maybe YouTube playing. But also, quite often, if I've got an iPad with me, then I'll just put the iPad down and have YouTube on there while I do other stuff on the Mac. So I don't let the iPad do the iPad bits. Yeah. Sigmund says, the thing I liked about Jobs is that he'd happily explain why they made a change, like dropping a camera, instead of ignoring or disguising the fact. I want Apple to return to that and be more upfront. That makes sense. Yeah, so the iPad losing that extra camera was confusing, and it was weird as well. They kind of glossed over it, and then all of the conversation afterwards was like, oh, they've just got rid of a camera here and didn't say anything. They did make a major point during the presentation, though, of saying, you can still use this camera for things like scanning documents, because that is really what you use the camera for on an iPad. You don't tend to be using it to take lovely pictures. You're not going to have it in your pocket while you're out and about and use it as a primary camera. So that makes a lot more sense to me. And actually, when I was on with on the podcast, I'm not sure if it was with Sigmund or it might have been with Sam Cole, and we were talking about, why have they put more cameras on the iPad? And I think it's just because they could, and then they could justify it being a bit more expensive. I don't think anyone was really using their iPad cameras that often, other than the front-facing ones, the FaceTime cameras, which was in the wrong place, and now they've fixed that, so that's a win. Michael Pepper's saying he'd like to have the ability to have app icons on the desktop on the second screen, apart from that, switching audio outputs finally arrived. So audio outputs, yes, but we haven't got things like audio hijack and that kind of thing, which a lot of people, if they podcast, would probably want. Like, that's the sort of thing that maybe, if Apple won't let that into the App Store, that could be a reason for having side loading that might make sense, which I know Europe's trying to do anyway with the iPad as well now, so interesting. Heim is saying, cool has-been hotel picture, and it's the keyboards. Yes, so this is Serpentius. Rest in peace. He sacrificed everything. That's why it's in the black frame. Michael Pepper, Stage Manager has the benefit of an extra split screen on the iPad OS that DeX doesn't have, portrait orientation support. Yeah, I'm not a big DeX advocate. I feel like it's something that all the Samsung people shout about a lot, and I don't think anyone actually uses in the real world. I think there's probably a handful of people that use it on the daily, and otherwise it's just something for them to point at iPads and go, oh, they haven't got that. I use Stage Manager to have video playing on the top half and Twitter and a messaging app on the bottom half in portrait orientation, so clutch. Okay, fair enough. That's cool. And you said so clutch, so are you friends with Jacqueline? Because she's the only other person, human, that I know that unironically says clutch. I could be wrong. I don't know how to properly tag people on here. So, Anton, if you're on anything other than the desktop, it's really difficult. If you do an @ at the beginning, then it'll work if you're on a desktop. But if you're on iPhone or iPad in the app, it doesn't seem to work properly. I've tried lots of times. Slow Cuba, I finally upgraded from my Series 2 watch, thanks to something that you said once. I got an SE. You did well by me. Thanks. Oh, you're very welcome. So I've still got my SE here, which is my secondary watch. So I have this one, typically on charge. This is where I embarrassed myself because it wasn't. But, yeah, 14%. I'm going to sit that on charge now because... sitting right here, right next to the charger, but not on it. So I have it on auto switch so that when I take one off, I put the other one on, and then I don't miss out on any of my movement tracking and stuff. It seems to work pretty well. And then I've got a Series 7, which I also bought used. I bought my SE brand new. I bought this used, and honestly, like 160 quid for this instead of 400-ish for the latest one that has exactly the same features. I'll take this one. It's got the same display and everything. I'm happy. Michael Pepper. I'm one of the 6 people that uses Dex. Yeah, that I think so. If we can find the other 5, we could actually just do a group call. I think that'd be cool. Dex, it's cumbersome to operate. Maybe, don't know, haven't got it. Yes, Jacqueline is awesome, so sweet too. I was fortunate to interview with her. Yeah, she was great. We had her on the podcast fairly early. I want to say like episode 5 or 6. But yeah, she's amazing. Love chatting to Jacqueline. When it plays streaming apps, it's okay. Oh, I'm guessing you were still talking about Dex. Yeah, anything that's lightweight and it's basically a browser, sure, should be fine. But yeah, we're going to wrap this one up, I think, in about 5 minutes, guys. So if you've got any last questions that you want me to answer, throw them down in the chat super quick, and we'll do that. And if not, leave them in the comment section if I miss it from the chat for some reason or the delay is too much. Yeah, throw them in the comment section. We'll do it on the next one. Sigmund is asking, what's your biggest disappointment in Apple-related purchases, and did you keep it? So I've never returned anything to Apple. I actually intended to return the MacBook Air when I got that. Because I'd actually just left a job and wasn't employed when I bought it because I'm very irresponsible. But actually, disappointment-wise, I think the biggest disappointment I had was actually when I got the 27-inch 2013 iMac, because I'd had the MacBook Air, like the 11-inch, little tiny baby one, and it was so fast. It was just absolutely screaming fast. And then I bought the 2013. It's like an i5 quad core, and I was expecting that this would be just insane, and it felt really sluggish. And it's because I bought it with a spinny hard drive instead of like a Fusion drive or an SSD because I wanted to have the space. So I guess that would be the one thing. But what I eventually did was actually, and I've done a video on this, is ended up running the operating system on an external hard drive or an external SSD that was hanging out the back of one of the USB 3 ports, because that was a lot faster than the internal drive, and that made it way snappier. Even when I put more RAM in it, like it was running 24 gigs of RAM, still kind of sluggish. But yeah, run it on the external SSD, much better. Will we get any more Macs at WWDC? So I would have definitely said no. And then we got the M4 iPad Air. And I still think probably not. But maybe. Like I could see them dropping something like the Mac Mini and maybe the 14-inch MacBook Pro with M4. But not with the M4 Pro and M4 Max. I think those would wait until October, and then we'd be looking just after that, probably January or February, to potentially get the Studio and the Mac Pro upgraded, like the Ultra chips. That would be my guess. Yeah, is iMac going to get an M4? I would think it probably will. I think, as I say, they're probably really trying to push away from the M3 chips. I don't think they want to make anything else with M3 in it. So the quicker they can get those updated, the better for them, I think. Then MacBook Airs and stuff again in springtime, probably. Another thing with iPadOS is the cursor. I just wish it was a regular desktop style instead of the round ball thing. I guess that is because they're trying to remind you that this is to replicate a finger, and that this operating system is not designed to be used with a cursor. But I could see them changing that. That seems like the sort of thing that that Craig Federighi would have a lot of fun with, telling you that this new revolution that they've come up with is changing the ball to a little arrow that's more precise. I think he could present that in a way that made us all giggle about why it hadn't been there around the same time when he's telling us about the revolutionary calculator. Michael Papatek, base model M1 iMac was my biggest disappointment at first. Sold it to my dad, who was using a 2009-2010 iMac. He loves it and uses it along with his 15 512 M1 MacBook Air. Okay, cool. I'm guessing that's 16 gig 512. In fact, maybe the 15 is a typo. Yeah. So my dad's also got an M1 iMac. He went up to the 1599 version though, to get the extra ports and the Ethernet and stuff, and the extra cores and stuff. But he really likes it. I think he did keep his old iMac around for a while, which was a 2012 as a 16. Yeah, 16. Sorry, that looked like inches then. I was like, 16-inch MacBook Air? What? Yeah. What does Vision OS need to reinvigorate Apple devs at WWDC before the international rollout? Money? Cash? I think there is going to be some kind of physical controller type device. I think it may be something along the lines of Apple Pencil Pro being like Magic Wand. Maybe. Barrel Roll seems like the sort of thing that would be usable with Vision OS. And that's why they probably haven't mentioned that yet, because they're just like, yeah, let's get some of these in people's hands and then they can use it on the day of Dub all of a sudden. That might be quite cool. But yeah, I think physical controllers, if there is going to be any sort of gaming, then you're going to need buttons of some sort, more than like playing crabs. Yeah, I think something along those lines, or support for third-party controllers if people want to do that silly gaming stuff that Apple doesn't really believe in. Slow Cuba, yes. iPad, getting a native calculator. That's what we're hearing. Craig has spoken about, like, if we're going to do a calculator, we want to do like a great calculator that you're like, we definitely needed this. AI driven, I don't know, something like that perhaps. I don't know what you do with AI in a calculator. It's just calculating. But there we go. Yeah, we're gonna wrap this one up, guys. Thank you so much for being here. If you've got any more questions for me that I haven't got to in the chat so far, let's just chuck those down in the comments section instead of the live chat, and then I'll be able to pick those up for the next video that we do. And that'd be really, really good. Thank you all for being here. Really appreciate it. It's always nice to have a good chat. Ron is just saying I'm not enthusiastic about native calculator on iPad. Third-party calculators apps are fine. Yes, they are. And for basic stuff, you can also use Spotlight search. You can just type them into the search, and it will tell you the answers. Yeah, thank you everyone. Symbolic math, yes, quite possibly, and maybe all like you can draw your own graphs in with Apple Pencil and areas under graphs. I don't know. Yeah, something like that. Cool. Thanks everyone. We will see you all in the next one.